Why don't we get going?
Why don't we get going? Welcome to the Step Over podcast. And I'm joined by Jessie Porter-MacLennan, who I think for the first time after I think we're up to almost 20 episodes of the Step Over. I'm going to call you my co-host for the day.
Oh, I'm
Jessie, how are
excited.
you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you very much. Um, we've been trying to find time to chat, and there's I think there's been a lot going on with Ottleti the last 2 weeks. There's something to talk about. So we're going to have like an Ottleti focused podcast. There's the draft, and last week there was the big day, the big six signings. And I think we're just going to have a little chit chat about that and get us caught up and how we felt about what's happened the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think to say that there's been a lot that's happened in the past couple of week or two is a bit of an understatement. Like there's been a lot and then there's been more and more and more. So there's definitely a lot to talk about, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So the draft was on January 20th, where Ottawa took Jose de Cunha from Cape Breton, as well as Julian Bruce from Montreal Carabins. Jessie, what did you think about the like how that draft went and Atleti's two new potential players?
Yeah, I think the draft went well. A lot of the players that were chosen, I think they were deserving of being drafted. There was a lot of really good athletes in the men's USports soccer this year. So everyone that was chosen, I think, is deserving of it. I like that some of the teams also chose local to try and advocate for that. Um, and in terms of Ottawa, I mean, it's no doubt that Julien Bruce and Jose de Cunha are incredible picks, and there was somebody who was keeping an eye out for Atletico's needs, and they picked accordingly. And it's not a surprise to me that, like, the top three, I guess you could say, considering top four, but two of these players were in the top teams of the country, like both of them. Julien Brice, his team won nationals, and Jose de Cunha, like, I don't really exactly know what happened with Cape Breton. They're usually a very, very strong team. I think this tournament, something just happened there. They didn't end up in the finals this year because I'm pretty sure they won in 2019. They have an incredible coach, as we all know. So they always do very well, and they always have very, very talented players. But yeah, specifically, I think, yeah, it's important that we have somebody for the back. Jose de Cunha, he's a tall guy, and he can get in there. I've seen him play. I've seen highlights of him play, and he's an incredible player. And the thing like that I like about Julien Bruce the most is that not only like is he a great player and he attacks well and he takes advantage of his opportunities, he's a team player, and also his potential chemistry that he could have with Zakaria Bahu. I think there's something special there. And of course, not everyone that's drafted potentially stays on the team, but I don't
That's right,
know. I have good hopes.
because they were teammates, right?
Yeah, they played together for two, almost 3 seasons. Two with CS Longueuil, and then one, I think, team in Laval. But I remember Zakaria mentioning that Julien got injured. But yeah, it seems like they're good friends, and I think that's a nice thing for Julien too going into it, is that there's somebody there that he knows going into the training. It'll be more comfortable for him to integrate into the team a bit. So yeah, I mean, both these players drafted would be great addition to the team, but I think with Julien and Zakaria, like that could be something special. That could be something to look forward to. What do you think of it all?
Well, yeah, like I was going to ask you, like, what like what you think about both these players' chances of actually like making the team. Because one of the things, if you're on the Ottawa soccer Discord, or like if you're talking on like social media, like our draft picks last year, which were Reggie Larea and Chris Malakos. They were drafted, but they only got a little bit of time to train with the team and just weren't kept on. But of course, that was Ottawa's first draft, and there's kind of there's an asterisk beside everything that happens during COVID. So
Yeah.
it's hard to say, like, it's hard to judge, like, okay, like how is Ottawa going to treat the draft, this year, because you only had this one weird year to make any sort of judgment based off of, and so maybe you didn't have anything to base it off of because of that. But I did notice, like, my feeling about the draft is that they, especially with Jose Acuna getting, Yao Felix to make the announcement of the number one overall pick, to me that kind of says, like, okay, well, we're not taking this seriously. We think that Jose Acuna at least for sure has a shot to make it, and with Julian Bruce especially having that potential connection with Zakaria. By the way, you chatted with Zakaria. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, we'll talk about that a little bit. That also makes me think that maybe that ups Julian's chances of making the team as well. Just having that already some chemistry built in when, this team is going to be pretty new to each other this year again. So having some chemistry kind of built in might really work in Julian's favor. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you're saying. It's so true. And again, with the draft last year, like considering there was no season, it's kind of hard to really go off of how the Atletico approached the draft in that year. But in terms of, with the Julien and Jose, like in terms of them and their potential of going onto the team, because often we see with drafts, not all of them will stay. They'll go, they'll train, we'll see how it goes. And if it doesn't work out, they'll go back to university and they'll try again another season, or just the CPL didn't work out for them. But in terms with especially Julien and Bruce, I think if they really see something there between these two players, and if they connect well and they know how each other play, I think that can play in Julien's favor very well. But at the end of the day, I still think the coaches are really going to have a look at every aspect of the player, their work ethic, who they are as a person, on top of their talent and skills that they have in soccer. Like, it's about who the person is and how the team all gels together. Like, you can have a team of 11 perfect soccer players that play all their positions perfectly, but if they don't gel well with the team and they all don't gel well together, like, they could lose every game, no matter how good a player is on a team. So I think it'll be about the first impressions they make with the coaches and showing that they really want this. I think that's what's going to matter most, because at the end of the day, if, for example, I'm not saying this is true at all, but like Julien, he just doesn't seem like he's really wanting it, then I'm sure the coaches and whoever's making these decisions will see that. But at the end of the day, I think if they want something enough and they show that they have the skills to play at this level now, they'll have a pretty good chance. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it. But at the end of the day, it really is about whether the professionals that are choosing whether they stay on the team or not see that they really want this and they really are ready and capable to start playing in the CPL, because they're not going to draft people just because it looks good. You know what I mean? Like, considering the Julien and Zach thing. So that's how I see it.
Yeah. And like, I think they're going to have to prove that they're players who can make an impact while they're here. Because I'm not sure if you notice this, but in the number of players you're allowed to have on the roster, these players, if they're signed to a development contract, they go back to school. I'm not sure if both these guys, I think Bruce for sure will be going back to school. I don't know. I think Acuna probably will as well. I think they both have like a few years of eligibility left. But so so part of the way through the season, they're going to be gone. So I don't think they're going to be kept on if the team doesn't think that they can make an impact while they're here. Because once they're gone, they're going to have to fill those spots or just be two men down for the rest of the season. So they're going to have to show value, and they're going to have to show it right away. Otherwise, they're just going back to school right away.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's just so hard to say, because they're both so young, right? So they still potentially want to have that education under their belt. But you see players like Mateo, he's just going right into the professional contract, and you never know. Like, these could be players that do want that, but like you said, it's very likely that it would be a situation where they want to go back to school, so they'd like that type of contract. So yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. Like, they'd have to really impress and really show that they can give something to the team and help them win and help them get to where they want to be in their goals in the time that they're playing, because again, their roles are going to have to be filled when they leave partway through the season. So that's a very important point to bring up. I completely agree.
Now, was there anything that surprised you about the draft? I know we were talking before about the fact that no Carleton players got drafted. Was that a big surprise to you?
Yeah, I mean, two things surprised me the most. One, before we even get into Carleton, is that you picked 3 people out of 5 that ended up in the draft. Look, Mr. doing his research. That was pretty impressive, Josh.
No big deal. No big deal.
That was pretty impressive.
Although my top pick did not get picked, which really surprised me. But
I know, and you were
I'll
so
take the 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 ain't bad.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all.
I'll take that.
In terms of surprises, yeah, so specifically, no one from Carleton got drafted. And like, to sum it all up, the way that I see it is in terms of Atletico not drafting somebody from Carleton. Initially, it's like, yes, like, why aren't you taking advantage of this opportunity? Really, what Atletico, in my opinion, should have really been looking at is Matteo de Brienne. That was something that's definitely something that should have been on their radar, and they should have been in talks with him, because he could have really made a difference for this team and really made a difference for the community and a fan base and even just a marketing base for Atletico. It could have been something that's really helpful. And I know the Matteo de Brienne situation is something that's been talked about a lot, but at the end of the day, that is something that should have been on their radar for sure. In terms for the draft picks themselves for Atletico, I think that they did their research and they picked players that catered to what they needed. So at the end of the day, it's upsetting that no one from Carleton was drafted. There's a lot of very talented players on that team, some of them who have had chances to play and have played or been drafted to the CPL already, like Gabby Batar and Dario Conte. So unfortunately, none of them were drafted, and it's definitely upsetting because a lot of them are very talented and ready to play at this level. But again, when you're seeing other teams, yes, there's 16 picks, 16 total players that are going to the draft. But when you see some of the teams that did make picks in order to cater, not necessarily cater, but they did specifically look at local talent in order to try and have that relationship, it's like that's eliminating Carleton from being able to be picked for some of those situations, right? So at the end of the day, I think it is upsetting. They were second best team in the country. But another really important factor for Carleton's performance this year is hosting nationals and having that 12th player in the crowd. That has, I think, another huge effect on how they performed this year. So at the end of the day, it's a lot of them do deserve the chance to be drafted, but I think the teams did their research and made sure they were picking from the needs that they needed for the team, for the fan base, and stuff like that. In terms of Atletico specifically, I think that what could have really helped them was just looking at Matteo de Brienne more seriously and really trying to get him to come play for them, as fostering that relationship between Carleton and Atletico better. Like we've seen from their statement, like they say that Carleton and Atletico, they have a mutual respect for each other and they are looking out for each other. I was very happy to see that. At the end of the day, I'd just like to see this implemented more into the Atletico Soccer Association and the way that they do their draft. But at the end of the day, they made some terrific picks, and I can't really complain, you know?
I think I'm 100% with you there. And I know initially I was I don't think I was ever really angry or upset that Ottawa didn't pick local, you know? Like that's not their job, right? Like their job is to pick the players that they want, whether they're from Carleton or not. And like there's no doubt the Carleton team is pretty stacked. But with only 16 picks and 162 players or whatever declared for the draft, and a lot of those players were really quality, I think it just showed there's room for more. Like there should have been more rounds, really, just to see more of that talent get at least like another look at the pro level, at least in the immediacy. In terms of Matteo de Brienne, he was always going to be the number one pick from Carleton if anyone was going to be picked. And I think maybe that just shows a little bit of Atletico, maybe their naivety in not having any conversation with him ahead of the draft. I think that they just thought, oh, well, he's going to be available. I do honestly think that they were going to pick him. And I think it would have been hard not to. But, they didn't talk with him before. And, in your chat with him, it sounded like there's no contact with them. So Feller jumped, and I think they're going to reap the benefits of that this year. Like, we're going to see. He signed pro. I guess he's not going back to Carleton. He's going to have a full pro season. And realistically, like, when you only have 16 picks across the whole draft, there is probably realistically only 3 or 4 guys on Carleton who, like, of the 13 that declared, who had a legitimate shot at getting drafted. And it just so happened that teams picked other players, and that doesn't, like, I don't think that reflects their quality. I think it just reflects the quality of the draft class overall. Yeah, like, I wasn't surprised that no one from Carleton got picked. I was a little disappointed, but at the same time, I think we got 2 really great players. And I think it's important to know that, just because no one from Carleton got picked, that doesn't mean those players aren't going to get a shot. Like, I think of the players that declared, quite a few are going to get a look at the CPL in the future, or at least in a pro league somewhere. And I think it's important to remember that, like, a lot of these players play for OSU, which has a very tight relationship with Atletico. They were the first member of the Powered by Atletico program. So it's not like these players are going to drop off the radar. And you got to think that guy is like Gabby Batar. He's going to be on people's radar. He's probably going to turn pro somewhere. Dario Conte, he was in the Furious Academy. He played a game or 2 with them. Like, he's been on people's radar for a long time. He's going to get a look somewhere. There's guys I'm sure will trial, and I'm quite sure at some point we'll see some of them at least trialing or training with Ottleti. They just didn't get drafted. So, I don't think that's like a world is falling type situation,
No, completely. And yeah, I think one important thing about Carleton that sets them apart from others is that, one, they have Kwesi Loney, who is a fantastic coach, who helps them get to the way that he plays the game. The way he has them play the game has a lot to do with it. And another thing that, I mean, my personal opinion is that it's a very well-rounded team, and it's hard to stand out, if you know what I mean. Matteo De Brienne obviously stood out. He's Matteo De Brienne. Like, we can just get over it. He's just he's amazing. But at the end of the day, a lot of these players stood out, and they all played very well. So it was a hard team to stand out in my opinion, because they're just such a well-rounded team, and they really play and work together as a team.
Absolutely. Now, something that happened a bit more recently, so last week, was the big day where Ottawa signed 6 new players. So they signed, so I'll go through the list of players that they signed. They signed Ollie Bassett, McDonald Neba, Nathan Ingham, Kevin Ailman, Zakaria Bau, and Maxime Tissot. Like, what were your thoughts on just like on just that day? Like did you like that, having 6 players, 1 every hour announced?
Yeah, I think it made it a lot more exciting for people to have it 1 an hour. You have something to look forward to every hour. You go throughout your day, and then you're like, okay, wake up, this player. Okay, I'll have my breakfast coffee. Oh, okay, this player. And then, it just was something to look forward to throughout the day. And yeah, it was a very interesting way to do it. I think there's definitely a reason behind it. It kept people engaged. It kept people online. Kept people talking about it, because people wanted to have a say on every single pick. And some people did wait to talk about it by the end, but a lot of people were trying to give in their 2 cents for every player every hour. But yeah, no, I really liked the signings. I think it was very exciting, and I'm very excited to see what they have to bring to the table. And it was a very interesting way they kind of went about picking the players, in my opinion. I liked it. Yeah.
Like, I know this isn't how like hockey works, but can you imagine the Sens announcing 6 new players like one every hour in one day. The city would lose its mind. I think it was a cool way just to good on them for keeping a wrap on who was getting signed. Like I think they did a really good job of keeping everyone kind of out of the loop until the last minute. I think one player got leaked a little bit ahead of their announcement, but everyone else were kind of surprises. You actually chatted with one of them, Zakaria Bau. What was your impressions of him?
Yeah, so after the draft, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna talk to one of these players. And right away, like I don't know, Zakaria Bau, I was just like, I want to talk to this guy. Like this guy he pulls my attention from all the stuff I've been reading about all the players. I was like, this guy is different, he's special. And he'd never played in the CPL. So I was like, okay, like how was he? I was considered a little bit confused why he wasn't in the draft list. And then I was like, oh, it's because he played in the college stream of things. This is a bit of a interesting. So in terms of Zakaria and my talk with him is like, I think from what I've seen him play in highlight tapes and stuff like that, he knows what he's doing on the ball. It was interesting because I asked him what he's going to bring to the game, what his way of playing is type of thing. And he was like, like I could give you an idea, but I'm really just an in the moment type of player. Like everything that I do, every way that I play, it's like it happens in the moment, and I'm very instinctual right in that moment on what I do in those situations. So it was very interesting, and he seems like a very down to earth guy and very excited to play for Atletico. So yeah, I have very good impressions talking to him, and I have very, very good intuition about how he'll add and play for Atletico.
And he's on a I believe a 2-year deal plus an option for another. And I really like that about I think most of the players actually were on multi-year deals. And first off, I just really like that, like knowing what are these contract lengths, and knowing how long they'll be here. So we know that for 2023 we're going to see a lot of, we know that we're going to see some of these players returning again. And also for a guy like Zakaria Bau, he's got so much potential by the looks of things. And, he's been playing in the PLSQ, I believe, since he was 15. So against men, and holding his own. He's got, that's sort of what this league is for, is players like that with, sell on potential, to help make teams like Ottawa profitable. If you sign him, pay him whatever you're paying him, and sell him for a few $100,000 maybe in 2023 or even 2024, that's a lot of your salary that this one player is paying for. So I think that was a great signing. Was there one player of those 6 that kind of stands out to you as either being maybe the most exciting player of those 6, or who you're most excited about, or the most important?
Yeah, I mean, they're all important. They all play a role that is going to be important to Atletico's style of playing in the games this coming season. But I mean, I think McDonald Neba was one that very much excited me, because I've watched many different levels of soccer, and one thing that wins you games predominantly in soccer, we all know this, is defense. And having a tall, strong center back, I'm hoping that he's playing center back, but even just in the defensive line in general, he's going to perform so well. And just having the height, it's such an advantage that obviously is talked about, but I don't even know if it's talked about enough. And I think it will work very well in Atletico's advantage there. And hopefully it helps us out in that sense. I think other than Zakaria, he was just exciting, was really on my radar. And then I was like, whoa, this is going to be great. But yeah, I think Atletico needs to step it up with their defense a little bit. And this player, I think, could help a lot.
Yeah, they were they were all high quality signings. There's not one on the there's not one on that list of 6 who is any kind of slouch or anything like that. like I think Ollie Bassett's going to play a big role. McDonald Neba, like you said, he's like I think he's going to play a huge role. Like they're saying that there's other teams that are trying to sign him who think he's going to be maybe the top defenseman by the end of the season in the CPL. Nathan Ingham, obviously locking in that number one goalie for the season, huge. Kevin Ailman seems to be, kind of that, like he's going to get a lot of minutes playing in that midfield, like a very creative player. Zachary Bau, obviously, we talked about lots of potential. Max Tissot, I think, as long as he can stay healthy, because he's had injury problems in the past, but like he's going to appeal to, the French fan base as well, which I think you really need, some francophone players in Ottawa.
Definitely.
I think that's just important to have that kind of representation.
Yeah.
And at his age, this might be his last team, is kind of my thinking. And if he can stay healthy, he's gonna provide leadership, and like when he's healthy, he still performs. He's still a very good player. Yeah. I was thinking about this question, and I think Nathan Ingham for me is probably the most important, because Dylan Powley.
Having an important keeper is like one of the most important things in a team. Like we can see it with Team Canada. Like that goalie kept them in their game, So
Super Boyan.
Yeah, exactly. So I think securing a very good starting goalkeeper was a very important thing for Atletico. And then, I just wanted to touch on quickly what you had said about having players that cater to a French fan base, is like that Atletico has completely been doing that. We have Zachary Bau, Maxime Tissot, and then also Julien Bruce. Like you can see that they're doing that. Like it's not even a secret. I can see it, and maybe other people can't see it. You can see it. I can see it. But I think it's also another really important thing that they need to do, and that's something they are doing. So I think that's very good.
Absolutely, yeah. So I was going to say about so actually just a few like an hour ago, Dylan Powley announced that he's retiring. But he played such an important role last year. He became such a fan favorite, and like he really proved that like he proved his quality at the CPL level. But he's decided to move on, and we just want to congratulate him on a fantastic career. He should be really proud of that. But without having that starting goalie anymore, I think that was such an important thing to lock in. And Nathan Ingham, he's a proven guy. He doesn't have to prove himself at this level. He's already proven it. Like we know that he's a top goalkeeper in this league, and now he's ours. And I'm really excited by him. Like he, like when I watch his highlights, he reminds me so much of Romuald Paiser, who used to play for the Fury, who in my opinion is probably the best keeper in Ottawa club soccer in our city's history. Like his command of the box is phenomenal, and we will hear him all over the stadium, I'm sure. He's not shy, and he's going to make some big stops for us, and I think he's going to be seen as probably our most important signing of that day. I think we're going to wrap things up. Jessie, this has been really fun. I got one more question for you. Like what would you like to see announced next from Ottawa? Like, do you want to see some more players announced? Do you want to see a coach, mascot?
There's so many things.
Should we have a mascot, actually, Jessie? Should we, like let's put a pin on the player or coach. Should we have a mascot? We don't have a mascot.
I don't know. I think Brandon and
Eddie
play a pretty good role as a mascot.
That's
with the
true.
megaphones.
That's true.
I mean, I guess they
with
could add. Yeah, I guess they could add like a potential mascot. They could do some like dances and stuff like that. I think at the end of the day, the CPL is really trying to keep a very professional rap on the CPL in translation to the other professional leagues. So they're trying not to have too much of, commercial things integrated into it. But I don't know.
But I think everyone else has a mascot, don't they?
Yeah, but it's because it's Atletico Madrid, right?
That's true.
I think that's why they're trying to keep it unlike that. But I don't know, like a mascot could add something, especially for like the kids and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's a good question. I haven't
like
really fully
Atleti,
thought about it.
like Atletico Madrid, they have a mascot, but Atletico Ottawa, we don't have one.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you
Very
like mascots?
interesting. I don't know. I don't love them. I don't hate them either. They don't change things for me, you know? Like Green Bay Packers is like my favorite like professional
Mhm.
team, and it's just like there's not much of a mascot. I don't even think they have a mascot. And if
I
they
think
did, I wouldn't
it's just like a
notice.
block of cheese, isn't it?
It probably is just a block of cheese that just like sits there in the corner of the field. Yeah, no, exactly. But yeah, I think the idea of it is like the fan base is the mascot, you know, and that's what they want. They want a loud crowd. I saw the Canada game. You see the crowds there from the men's team. Like that's mascot enough, you
The
know,
fan
even
base is
more.
the mascot. Should we
Yeah.
trademark that? I like that.
Should we trademark that?
I think we might have to trademark the the fan base is the mascot. I love that.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
I do.
That's
That's
just kind of how I
fantastic.
see it.
No, I'm a big fan of that actually. Okay, well, my original question. Okay, so would you like to see a coach announced next, or do you want to see some more players to kind of flesh out this lineup?
Okay, so there's two things that I want to see announced. One, super serious. One, I'm serious about. I don't see it happening. One is a coach. I really would like to see a coach be announced. This is so important because once you get to know coach, then you can kind of get a better idea of how this team's going to play and how it's going to work. And the fact that there's no coach just it leaves so much ifs out there, and I don't like ifs. And then the other thing I would like to see announced is a new PA announcer for Atletico.
Oh, interesting.
You know, I think
Do you know
someone who goes
someone?
by the name of Jessie Porter-MacLennan would really
I've heard she's good.
add to the atmosphere of Atletico games. And I think it would be a great asset for the team. So those
Hmm.
are two things I'm hoping to see announced.
I don't know who this person is, but I've heard she really practices her like pronunciations. So she gets all the names like just perfectly. I've heard some
she
really
does.
good.
She does.
Yeah.
And I am really advocating for her because she is very set on this goal. So get it out there. Atletico Ottawa wants to see Jessie Porter-MacLennan as PA announcer.
That's very interesting. That's a very interesting take. I know that, no, of course, this is no offense to whoever is the current PA for
No.
the Athletic Ottawa games. I apologize. I don't know who that is. I'm sure they're absolutely lovely and they do a good job. But on this podcast we are JPM fans. So
it's just a young girl trying to pursue her dreams. It's not trying to hurt anyone in the process.
Just trying to live her dreams. For the record, I like to see a coach. Let's just get a coach and get that over with. I know on the on the podcast accounts, I had heard that a coach has been chosen and wasn't going to be announced. No, sorry, there weren't going to be any player announcements until the coach was announced, and that ended up not being true. So I put that out, and it wasn't 100% accurate. But it's what I heard. So from sources, and that wasn't 100% right. So I would like to see a coach, and yeah, if we can get Jessie Porter-MacLennan on that PA system, all the better. To pronounce the name of the new coach correctly.
Yeah, exactly. Done.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode of the Step Over podcast. Jessie, thanks for being my first co-host in Step Over History. It's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure for me too. Anytime. Bring me back whenever you'd like. Talk about anything. I enjoy these podcasts and these conversations, and I hope others do as well.
Absolutely. So for those listening, you can follow us at the Step Over podcast. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff. We'll see ya.